I'm a firm believer in the power of what you think, the power of what you say. Those things matter for you to achieve success in your goals. Welcome. I'm Diane Flores, a former overweight, unhealthy, single teen mom living on all forms of government assistance, turned IFBB bodybuilding professional. And I'm also the creator of Venus Fitness Studio, which is an all-women's personal training gym with a team of personal trainers transforming lives in our community of Modesto, California. I'm also the founder of the Goddess Body Elite competition team with athletes all around the world and a team of coaches helping women achieve greatness they never thought possible. But it wasn't all that long ago that I lacked the knowledge, the confidence, the budget, and the time to focus on changing my own health, my own body, and mindset. Fast forward past many failed attempts and lessons learned, I stepped on stage 16 times, earned the prestigious title of IFBB Pro, and in that process have created a formula for our clients that's changed lives and gives me more freedom and confidence in my own body than I ever thought possible. One that only existed as a daydream. My team and I now teach others through training clients in the studio, online programs, competition coaching, and now this podcast that you're listening to. I created the Boss Bitch Radio podcast to give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you make profound changes in your life. If you're an ambitious fitness junkie or one in the making who's looking to up-level your confidence, create a body, mindset, and a life that you love, you are in the right place, Boss Bitch Bestie. I freaking love you, and let's get started. Okay, you guys, welcome to Boss Bitch Radio. This is Mindset Mastery Monday. Okay, now I went to create a podcast about mindset and it spawned into multiple segments and series. So this is going to be step one, podcast one, if you will, because it's really begins with the power of your mindset in achieving your goals, and actually really with anything in life, mindset is going to be key to hone in on and have control over. So what you say about yourself, what you think about yourself, all of those self-beliefs, sometimes we create self-limiting beliefs. And I believe, there's going to be a lot of beliefs here, but I believe that a lot of my success, or at least what I define as success for myself, has stemmed from whether it was unintentionally, intentionally, subconsciously creating an environment mentally that would feed me into successful endeavors. So again, this doesn't just manifest itself by me thinking positive and just being like, oh, all these things are going to happen. And I'm sitting on the couch eating bonbons. And then I'm also winning shows and creating businesses and all these things. I had to move my feet, right? I had to do things. But the foundation, the bedrock of what was important to me and what I could perceive happening for myself started with my self-beliefs, my beliefs in myself, and really taking that into consideration in my journey forward for success. And I had to cultivate that. So I'm a firm believer in the power of what you think, the power of what you say. Those things matter for you to achieve success in your goals. Now, y'all listen to me mainly for health and fitness stuff. A lot of you are here for bodybuilding content, and some of you are here for my juicy stuff on the After Dark episodes. But I think that this can apply to many different situations. Now, I know that I have found myself in situations when I have wanted to quit because things become challenging. And this was honestly one of the reasons that spawned this content. Was I see it often with clients who are up against a challenge, a roadblock, a struggle. They're not quite achieving their goals when it comes to health and fitness, and they want to quit. And sometimes there's need for that, and it is warranted. And we'll talk about that in another episode as we go through this mindset, journey, these Monday mindset episodes. We'll cover that. Like, when is it time to fold? When is it time to quit? When is it time to give in? But I want you to take a moment to consider how much your mindset has potentially got in the way for you, right? And that's what I really want you to take today's episode as is, okay, where have I shown up this way for myself? Where have I quit? What am I telling myself on the daily? What do I believe about myself? These things are super important as we move through life as humans in this wonderful world, but also when it comes to achieving your goals. So, the reason this spawned was from a conversation that I was having with my romantic partner. And he was very curious as to, like, how did you even start competing? Like, what prompted this? And this was how the conversation started. And I firmly believe that my mindset in achieving things was unbeknownst to myself, started really, really early on. And I told him this story about how I just had this belief that it was going to happen. I did not know how it was going to happen. I most certainly doubted myself. I definitely was like, I don't know how I'm going to make this happen. Right. And I told him that before my daughter was born, I started buying magazines around the time after she was born. Between the time my son was born, I started buying every health and fitness magazine I could possibly imagine. And I just tried to see myself as these women. Like, how could I look like this? Like, what are they doing? How are they doing this? Right. And I started to just believe that if they could do it, there was no reason why I could not achieve that. I didn't care if I already had 3 kids. I didn't care if I had stretch marks and I didn't have the means financially. I'm just like, there's got to be a way. I've got to figure this out. Now, had I been in a negative self-belief space where I was just like, oh, I'll never be able to do that. I'll never be able to afford that. I'm never going to look like those girls. And let me tell you, those things did pop up, girlfriends. Oh, yes, they did. But when I was able to immediately replace those thoughts with, like, well, if they can do it, so can I. And obviously, many other mantras of the similar nature, then I was essentially my own hype girl. I was like, let's go, let's get it, girl. You got this. And it wasn't always pretty. Okay. It was not always pretty. I did have my moments, let me tell you. But I started to tell him this story about how just started manifesting this for myself. I just started buying all the magazines, ripping out all the workouts. I was obsessed with the back of the magazines because they covered contest coverage and all the content there. And I was reading and I was obsessed with, like, certain figure athletes because there was no bikini division back in that time. And what I started to do was I just started to piecemeal my own program together. I would just go in the gym and I would start doing this workout from this girl. And then, that cardio style of cardio from this girl who had competed. And I thought, if I want to look like this or I want to compete, I need to do the things that these girls are doing. And I just stayed focused on that. And I tried not to get squirrely and allow other things to pop in there and, like, shift my focus, right? Like, oh, maybe I should start running 5Ks or maybe I should do, Zumba or whatever. I just was like, this is the path and I'm going to do this thing because this is what these girls are doing. And I'm just going to see what happens. So, all of that to say that that was what spawned my self-belief in that, hey, if these girls can do it, there's no reason why I cannot achieve the same. And essentially, that is how I have really led my life when it comes to fitness, nutrition, business, podcasting, relationships, all of the things in my life which seem like unbelievable or impossible. And I think, I don't think so, boo boo. If someone else is doing it, if someone else has done it, why not me? And that's what I want for you. Why not you? So, before we dive into some tactical things and some tips and some things that I would love for you to think about and potentially journal on and consider, I want to talk about the power of these self-limiting beliefs. But first, we need to know what limiting beliefs are. So, we'll talk about, like, strategies on how to overcome them. And we want to get a little deeper as far as the examining the origins of where these beliefs come from, the impact they're going to have on your life, and also our propensity to quit is highly dependent on our beliefs, okay, and our self-limiting beliefs at that. So, limiting beliefs define, I'm going to read to you. Of course, I have notes here for me to stay on track and not get too squirrely, but limiting beliefs are deeply ingrained negative thought patterns that undermine our confidence, potential, and our ability to achieve our goals. Okay, so again, negative thought patterns. This is a system of beliefs that you essentially create for yourself based on multiple things, which we're going to talk about. So, the first one is being the origin and the influence stems from past failures. So, think about any time that you've had something come up that didn't go well for you, right? I know since we are often talking about competing, if you had a show where you did not do well, right? This happens often. I see this time and time again, from either my clients or people in the industry where they see that their placing was not as great as a show before or not what they were hoping for and expecting. And this then sets a foundation for their beliefs moving forward, right? So you failed and now you think the next one's going to be a failure, or you just kind of get into this negative spiral, right? Another space of origin for negative self-limiting beliefs are criticism, right? People are criticizing you for things that you're doing or you've done in the past. Girls, ladies, gentlemen, everybody, boss bitches, all around the universe. I have dealt with so much criticism, so much criticism. You're talking to, well, you're listening to, but girl, let's start a chat here. You're listening to a girl, a grown woman now, who started a pole dancing studio in a very conservative town in California. Now, if you don't live in California, I think there is this sometimes an assumption from people, like, if you're in California, we're very liberal and, everything is like LA and, everybody is forward thinking and progressive. And I love my little Central Valley town, but that is not always the case. There are those of us here that live here that are, but that is not the majority. Okay. So when I opened up a business and I'm dealing with criticism after criticism after criticism, and my kids are getting razzed at school, and I'm, getting side-eyed by like moms at like cheerleading practice when I'm there for my daughter and all these things. And I dealt with that shitstorm for a very long time. And I think becoming a single mom, being pregnant at a very age, like I was dealing with that at 16. So it was like, for me, and I encourage you to find that thing in your life where you're like, fuck, if I did that, what you got, okay? I can deal with anything. So dealing with a lot of the criticism and the judgment and people, just even in my family, right? Like uncles talking shit because I got pregnant at a very young age, like anything you could possibly imagine. I use that as jet fuel for me to be like, fuck you. And like, I'm doing this thing. And like, now you want to borrow money from me. So what's that about? So you have to think about where your past failures have come from. Like, past failures have maybe bred some of these self-limiting beliefs, criticisms that you've endured. Like I was just talking about, societal pressures as well. That's another huge one that will contribute to creating this sort of self-limiting belief. Then we also have comparison with others. Okay. So that is a huge one. That is one we'll talk about a little bit later as well, because I do think that there is some value in shining a light on the pressure that we feel kind of self-imposed with comparing ourselves to others. And I have definitely been there before. Didn't spend a lot of time there, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of the amount of energy that I give that. I don't really. So that's one thing that will create some self-limiting beliefs that cause people to really stop dead in their tracks from either achieving a goal, continuing through with a goal that they set out for, and also achieving success, because the comparison trap. So this will oftentimes shape what we think is possible for us to achieve things in life as far as our goals go. So, some examples of some common self-limiting beliefs. These are just a few. There are many, many, many. So let me tell you, one of them is I'm not smart enough. Okay, so if this is something that you tell yourself often, guess what? You're not going to be smart enough because you're going to always find a way to prove that, right? Which is that one of the examples, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy of like, well, I'm not smart enough, so that's why this thing isn't working, or that's why I can't do this thing, or I can't follow through with this thing. So that's one that's really common. Another one is, and I think that I briefly had this self-limiting belief where I thought that success was only for special people. I thought that probably early on my business journey when I was before I hired a business coach. And I was just like, man, the success must just be for these people who are really special, or they have family with money, and things just come easy for them and things just come hard for me. And I truly believe that the more that you tell yourself these stories, that the more that they come true. Okay. Another one is I don't deserve happiness. And this can come from multiple things that have happened to you in your past, right? Like if you have done something that you feel you don't deserve happiness for, I can use an example for myself as a married woman and, stepping outside of my marriage and having an emotional and intimate affair with somebody. And then after that thinking, man, I did this wrong thing and I just don't deserve happiness because how is it fair for me to be happy when I did this like terrible thing in my marriage, right? So again, you learn from your mistakes and your failures, which we'll talk about in another podcast as well, which is super huge and pivotal for you to get out of these. One of the main things to get out of these self-limiting beliefs. But another one that has come up too, and I oftentimes go back to, is at one point I had a business coach, can't remember which one it was, that asked me just point blank, right? I was going through this like Lady Gaga phase where I was just like obsessed with Lady Gaga. And she was like, okay, well, who's your favorite artist right now? I think this was Jill Coleman that maybe put me on the spot. And I said, Lady Gaga. Like she's unique. She gives zero fucks. She is who she is without apologizing about it. And I just resonated with that in the point of my journey in which like this whole business coaching was coming up. And so she just asked me, okay, well, I want you to imagine if Lady Gaga decided that she was not going to pursue her career in music and be the eclectic person she is and give zero fucks. If she decided she wasn't going to do that because there were already enough musicians, there were already enough people who were trying to, break the mold and be different, and who was really going to give a shit about her, and she just did nothing, like, where would we be without Lady Gaga, right? And like, use your own artist, use your own, person who has made, pivotal changes in our culture or history. And had they not did this thing because they thought, well, why is anybody going to care about me? Why are they going to listen to me? Why am I important? Why am I special? What do I have that other people aren't already doing? Had they not done those things, I wouldn't even be standing here creating a podcast and creating content and putting myself out there and doing all the things, because sure, that came up for me as well. When I went to start my podcast, I was like, who's going to listen to me? Who cares? I'm not like some gigantic name coach that's cranking out like hundreds of pros, at a time. And I'm just, I'm just a single mom that was on welfare. And like, I have all these stories, but imagine if I would never have taken the chances, right? And believed in myself and created a space of positive self-belief and went forward with that. I can't even imagine. My life would be so much different. And I don't know because it's not, but I know that the direction it was going before I decided to chase my passions and believe in myself, I would have a whole different life and don't know that I would really be in love with it and be passionate about it and be enjoying it. I'd probably just be kind of doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And that might work for other people, but it just did not work for me. And I knew that I needed to really have an open mind about what was possible and not think that things were unbelievable, right? Like, it's not believable. I can't do this thing. So we talked about the examples. If you find yourself saying any of these things, it's normal. It's totally normal, especially if you did not grow up or really surround yourself around people who had positive self beliefs and self talk and positive mindsets and viewed their setbacks and failures as learning lessons. And rather than quit and fold, they just found other ways to make things work and moved forward. Okay. So, another thing is the impact that having limiting beliefs or self limiting beliefs have. There are so many ways that this impacts your life, but some of them, obviously, they create a swirling of self-doubt amongst yourself constantly. And if you've listened to my podcast enough, you've heard me say, like, you spend the most time with yourself. You have to like yourself. You need to understand the ways that you think and the reasons why you do what you do, whether it's good or bad. What are your rudders in life, right? Like, what are your core principles and things that are important to you? And when things are off and you do an audit of these pillars of your life, like, where are they off and where do they need attention? And what does that mean about what you need to change about your self-limiting belief? And maybe that's like, oh, I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough resources, or I'm never going to be good enough to do all the things well, right? I'm sure you listened to the podcast on work-life balance. If not, make sure to go revisit that episode. We'll make sure to link it up in the show notes. But that's also something to consider as well, because when you can start to cultivate a sense of an even keeled, now keep in mind, it's likely never going to be all even, and you're not going to feel 100% of the time like you got your shit together. But when you can create a sense of like, well, I'm really hustling here, that doesn't mean anything about my capacity to be great in these other areas that are important to me. Don't create negative self-beliefs around your imbalanced life, okay? Because I've been guilty of that and it does me no good. So my daughter often says, quit saying that, you're going to manifest it for yourself. And she's right. She kind of maybe learned it from her mama. But sometimes mama be backsliding because we're human and these things happen. And I just have to remind myself often. So it causes self-doubt. It will cause a gigantic fear of failure. I see this time and time and time and time again, probably every day in some way, shape, or form, that I have either a client or, even as a mom, with your kids, is this fear of failure. So negative self-beliefs or, limited self-belief system, that's one area that it's going to impact you. You're going to have this fear of failing. So when you have a fear of failing, you just don't do the thing because you're scared, right? You're creating a scenario of which you don't even know to be true. You're creating this in your head, and a lot of times we go down a little bit of a spiral or a path of then creating this, again, self-fulfilling prophecy, which we're going to go into here in a second. But this fear of failure is just, you start kind of manifesting that for yourself. So it's not to say that you shouldn't have a little bit of that nervous energy or something whenever you achieve a new goal. But one way that I reframe this for myself is, I'm not nervous. I'm not scared. I'm excited. Okay. This was something I did early on in my competitive career as a bodybuilder. And I was just like, you're not nervous, you're excited. Stop it. You're not nervous. If you keep saying you're nervous, you're going to be fucking nervous. You're going to manifest the nervousness. And for me, that was important because I did not want to get on stage and forget my routine and be present and really own that moment. Because if you've competed before, that moment is a glimmer in time. It's 30 seconds and you can't get that back. Okay. You get to rewatch it and see your nervousness through the lens of the camera that is recording you, and you cringe, right? That's what happens. So I started probably about halfway through my bodybuilding journey is that's the same visceral response, right? To being excited and nervous, right? It's the same kind of emotion. It's just the charge behind it is different when you can say, I'm not nervous, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm just excited. Okay. You have to convince yourself of that. So when you can abolish your fear of failure, which is hard, and I'm not saying I don't have moments that creep up, you feel the fear and you do it anyway because what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Okay, then what? You got to just keep saying, then what? Okay, and then what? Like, am I going to live? Am I going to still be alive? Am I going to breathe to see another day? Great. If you start coming up with these excuses or reasons that like people are going to laugh, what are people going to think? You are holding yourself back from making a change, trying out something new, setting out a new goal based on what other people think. That, my friends, is a prison of a way to live your life. So, as you can see, I stopped doing that years ago, and I'm very transparent and I'm very upfront with my life. And if I'm going through something, sometimes I'm not sharing that at the moment. And that's because I'm trying to learn the lesson. And when I come out of it at the end, then I bring it up into a podcast or an Instagram post or a story or something like that. But it's important to know that I don't, I'm not just running around, taking all these risks and not being scared and all that. Like it comes up, but I feel the fear and I do it anyways. So it's the hesitation to take risks is also, again, this impact that having that self-limiting belief, like I was just mentioning, it's stopping you from trying to achieve certain goals. And with that, you have to understand that if you are always hesitating to take risks and you're holding back because of your fear of failure, you are missing out on so much life for the fear of these possibilities of things that might happen. And I urge you to really take some time, maybe after this podcast, to journal and think about some things that are holding you back. Okay. This will also, having these negative self-beliefs will also lead to a bit of reluctance when it comes to pursuing certain goals. And also, my least favorite is the tendency for people to quit prematurely. So I see this time and time again in the fitness world specifically, because, and honestly in business too, because I have had 3 business coaches and some mentors along the way in my 16 years of business, right? And with that, I've met certain people in these business coaching groups. So it's not just the health and fitness realm, but these business coaching groups where they're going at it and they're trying to do this thing, the side hustle to try to, start a business or be an influencer, content creator, start a podcast, start a YouTube channel, whatever. And they quit prematurely, like right before it's going to get good, because they're like, it's not working. It's taking too long. No one's listening to me. I don't know what I'm doing. They get bored, whatever, and they quit prematurely. This has happened to me multiple times. This has happened to me in contest preps. This has happened to me in business endeavors, the podcast, lots of things where I'm like, there's a lull this month. Oh shit, nobody's listening. You freak out. It's like, it's like a drop in the bucket of downloads that have gone down for the month. And I'm like, I've gotten into that mindset or that headspace very briefly in freak out mode. And then I'm like, okay, either I can freak out or I can just put that behind me, rear view mirror, move forward and be better. How can I be better? How can I improve? How can I be 1% better? So the tendency to quit prematurely links very, very highly to having a negative self-talk, negative or self-limiting belief. I truly, truly believe that. Having a limited mindset, a self-limiting belief around your ability to follow through with your goals has the high tendency for people to quit prematurely. Then they start giving themselves this next topic, which is their self-fulfilling prophecy. So you start believing these limitations And then this becomes your story. This becomes a story that you tell yourself as the reason why you're quitting or you're stopping doing the thing. And you start to put your actions, you lead to actions that align with the negative beliefs that you're telling yourself, right? It's just a matter of time that that's going to happen. You keep telling yourself you're not going to be good at a thing, you're going to suck at a thing, and you don't deserve it or whatever. You're not going to achieve that. Why would you? You don't even believe in yourself. So creating an environment mentally that breeds negative outcomes is destined for failure. Okay. I'm not saying this wholeheartedly. There might be some miraculous trick to that, but I highly doubt it. If you are creating this mental environment of negativity and self-doubt, fear, failure, all these things, is it possible that you're going to achieve this thing? You don't need to have all the answers right now. You don't need to know how it's going to unfold. You just need to take the next step. Take the next training session, eat the next meal, do your next cardio session, spend time with the people you love, right? If you're trying to improve like relationships, take the next course, finish the next chapter, do the next module. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do it all right now. You just got to do the next thing that's going to get you one step closer to the thing that you want. And then just do the next thing and the next thing. And it sounds so easy and simple in theory. And let me tell you, it is, but it also isn't. However, you don't know what you don't know. So if you've never achieved this thing, you can't automatically assume that you have all the answers by forecasting the end result when you've never done it. Okay. And even if you have, so if you've competed before, I've competed 16 times. No prep was ever the same. There were times in every single prep where I was like, I'm not going to be ready. I'm not going to be ready. And then I had to say, like, if I'm going to keep telling myself I'm not going to be ready, I'm creating this self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm going to do dumb shit to make me not ready. You want to know what that dumb shit is? Yes, boss bitch, I do. Eating dumb shit, bites, licks, and tastes, overeating off my meal plan, skipping cardio or cutting cardio short, cutting training sessions short by like a set or a whole exercise or whatever. So I was already creating this system in my head of like, well, I'm just going to believe it. So I'm just going to now do dumb shit to make this true so I can prove myself right. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, we do this to ourselves. Okay. So I want you to think about successful people. Successful people. Do you know someone who's very successful, right? I like to think that I have success in business and I have success in bodybuilding and physique goals anytime I put my mind to it. The negativity that occupies my mental real estate is very, very slim to none now. So all of these little things I just told you where I was like, oh, I'm not going to be ready. And then I did the dumb shit to make me not ready. That got lesser and lesser and lesser with each time I competed because I knew the power of my mindset. And I knew that if I kept telling myself that this was what was happening, this was what was going to happen. It's just inevitable. So if you keep telling yourself, oh, I have a weakness for sugar. I can't be around sugar. I have no willpower when it comes to desserts. Guess what? You're not, because you keep telling yourself you're not. So you have to create an environment in your mind, much like someone who's achieving success or successful things, endeavors, and achieving their goals. They're filling their minds, their days, their conversations with themselves, their conversations with other people with positive reinforcements of things and beliefs that they can do that. Now, again, not 100% of the time, but I guarantee you they're not filling their minds constantly with the negative versions of these things, and they're not building a limiting self-fulfilling prophecy. No, we don't do that. Okay. So that is another key when it comes to limiting beliefs, as far as the things that keep them solid and in place, is you get this self-fulfilling prophecy going. And then you just keep believing that because you've created that reality for yourself. So Another problem that we talked about was that when you have these negative self-beliefs or the self-limiting belief system, you create this perpetual cycle of quitting. Now, bitches. I've been in business for 16 years, okay? We have a group of women that do this all the time. They do this all the time. I see it every year. I'm ready for it every year. I welcome you back every year with open arms because I love you and I'm petting you on the head. And hopefully you're listening to this podcast and we can change this. And this can be the last year that you're doing this dumb shit. Okay. But you create a cycle of quitting when you have negative or limiting self beliefs. Okay. You create this environment where you get excited to start a program. You get more excited about starting the program than you do to execute said program. So when it comes time to execute the program, you're not as excited about it. This is where self-limiting beliefs come up, and you create a self-fulfilling prophecy, which you tell yourself the reasons why you cannot follow through with this thing that you've set up to do. Okay. Happens a lot of times. Think of people who set out to do New Year's resolutions, right? I love the new year. I think it's an amazing time of year. We have taken so many clients in this perpetual cycle of quitting that started with us January 1st or the new year and have changed them. And they've been with us for years now. Okay. Like I said, the environment you're in is highly conducive to your success. And the environment at Venus, if you drink that purple Kool-Aid, bitch, you're going to be with us for life. But if you keep telling yourself that it's not working or this or that, and you create this self-fulfilling prophecy, then you're going to go back to your perpetual cycle of quitting. Okay, this is seen time and time again. And this was actually what spawned this series, because I see too many women that set out to achieve a goal, whether it's health, fitness, success, business, and they don't have the belief system within themselves to carry it through because they've told themselves these stories over and over again. And then they just repeat them. And sometimes they repeat them in different areas of their life, but it just manifests in a different way. Right? So limiting beliefs will often fuel this cycle again and again and again, where anytime a challenge is put in front of you, it is seen as, proof that it's not working, proof that there's proof of inadequacy there somewhere. And sometimes you're just waiting for that one thing and then you just give up rather than persevere. Now, there is a time to fold. There is a time to fold, 100%. I don't believe in continuing to chase something, even if your mindset is positive around it and it's not serving you. And we'll go into that in another Monday Mindset podcast. But for right now, it will cause you to want to give up rather than persevere. Now, overcoming some of these self-limiting beliefs. We're going to go into this and dive in and give you some tactical things to think about and possibly journal on, because I am a hoe for journaling. So overcoming them, you got to challenge those limiting beliefs, and it requires you to understand and have an awareness of them, right? So hopefully this podcast is step one in awareness for you. So this is where you start questioning those self-limiting beliefs and their accuracy. Is this indeed true? This is in time for you to gather some evidence. And one of my favorite ways to do that is through journaling. And so when I come up against something where I'm fighting it internally, I'm having some self-limiting belief, I have some resistance, maybe it's about chasing a new goal, working with a new mentor, whatever it may be, pen, paper, draw a line through the middle, pros and cons, okay? Gather your contrary evidence, shit that's factual and is not a feeling. So when you write something down, is that a fact or is that a feeling? Or is this something that you're creating in your mind? Is this some fantasy, catastrophized fear situation that you've just made up, right? Facts only, pros, cons, go. This is what I do. I do this when, again, like I mentioned the reasons before, but even if I'm dating somebody and, it's really easy to glaze over things when you're getting to know somebody and you're kind of like swirled in all of the new, hormones and excitement and all of the fun things that come with like that honeymoon phase of dating somebody. And you tend to like overlook some things. I'm much better at that now than I ever was because I do this. I write a line down the middle, pros and cons, and facts, not feelings. Okay. Very, very important. Facts. Stick to facts. When you start getting into feelings, then all of a sudden you are making decisions based off of a feeling versus a fact. And that can lead to you just being stuck. So, again, got to challenge those beliefs. So, then one thing that I also do is I replace any kind of self-limiting belief that comes up when I start to make these lists and gather my evidence or whatever. If there's anything in there that comes up and is a feeling invoked, right? Like, oh, I don't know if I trust myself. I don't think I can do this. These girls are better than me. List those all out. Make a list of all of your self-limiting beliefs after you've listened to this podcast, right? Then again, on one side of the paper, and then on the other side of the paper, I want you to list the opposite of that. Turn that into an empowering affirmation and see how much that changes the fiber of your being, right? Like you just changes your chemistry in your body. One great one that I just got from my coach, right? So I work with John Romanello on communications, things for the podcast, dating, relationships, non-monogamy, and navigating all that. And let me tell you, John be the hype man, okay? John be making me feel like, girl, got it going on. And like, I know that, but like, sometimes I just need to be pat on the head because like, I don't know. I tell myself that, but I don't know. Like maybe I'm kind of crazy sometimes, right? Because I think that I'm the shit, but like, I don't think I'm the shit, if that makes sense. Like I know I'm the shit. So John made it very clear to me after something came out of my mouth, and it was very much I don't want to say it was like a victim mindset, but I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if he's going to want that because of this, and that. And John's like, let me just tell you, you are the prize. You are the prize here. Okay. And he listed what little but vast amount of information that this man has about me I think we've been working together for 6 months, 2 calls a month that are 90 minutes. And he's like, just like, my CV, my resume of my badassery. And I'm like, you know what, John? You're right. I am the motherfucking prize. And let me tell you that every time I sit down to journal now for the past few weeks, the top of my journal, the first sentence, I am the prize. And then that sets the tone for me to have some positive conversation with myself about what's going on and reframe things. So super important. I love journaling. I'm trying to get some discount codes for you guys for some journals that I use and one that I'm loving right now. So sit tight for that. This should be coming in the near future. So I'm manifesting that shit. Now, when it comes to digging in and doing the work and working on those self-limiting beliefs, there's a transformation that happens. Now, it could be overnight. If you are like, fuck yes, this is amazing. Like, who knew I could just tap into the power of my mindset? And like, it's like a light switch for some people. Some people it's not. Sometimes it's a slow rip of the Band-Aid, right? Instead of just ripping that shit off and being like, boom, I'm here and this is how I'm going to start shifting my mindset. So the transformation can take some time, but it's going to require you to confront and alter limiting beliefs. This is going to lead to boosting your confidence. So don't come for me when all of a sudden you're a bad bitch and everybody can't fucking handle it, okay? Because that's probably what's going to happen. But it's always fun on this side. But it's going to help you boost your confidence. And not only that, it gives you an insane amount of resilience, right? So like I have trolls just like anyone else. I had someone troll on my YouTube and leave some stupid dumbass comment. And 10 years ago would have died. I would have been mortified. I would have been like, oh my God, somebody doesn't like me. Life is over. Now I'm like, block. I don't even engage. Now, if you're a real big dick, I'll probably screenshot that and I will blast you over on my Instagram stories, because if you're going to come at me on a public forum, I'm definitely going to come back at you on a public forum and let everybody else know that you're a keyboard troll. But I don't really give that shit my energy anymore. I'm just like, block, get you out of here. Boom, you're not my person. And I don't let that overcome me. I don't let it, fucking pee in my Cheerios or whatever that saying is. Like I get over it, right? I'm very much quick to recover. The only time I get stressed or worried is if there are people in my close knit circle that I love dearly, clients, my people. If for some reason something I said unintentionally, upset somebody, then of course. But other than that, I'm resilient as fuck when it comes to strangers trying to pass judgment, strangers on the internet for sure. We don't let that mess with our boss bitch vibes here. Okay. So when you can start getting in that headspace, the door to your true potential is literally like I put a Doc Martin on and I fucking kick that bitch open. So I'm just telling you, when you can start creating an environment mentally that cultivates positive self-belief systems, bitches, I'm 45 years old, okay? I was not born with this stuff. My parents are from a third world country that I just visited, okay? I definitely spent 10 days there seeing for my firsthand that where I'm at in my life had nothing to do with how my ancestors and my grandparents and like my father, how they were raised, because had I been bred with that mindset, that is a lot of the folk over there that we spent time with, at least, I don't know that I would be as strong-willed as I am now to make the changes in my life. So you have to understand that if you were raised with hearing parents talk this way out loud or to themselves or about themselves or to you or your siblings, it's not impossible to change the trajectory of your upbringing. I highly believe that. Okay. So my transformation came with doing a lot of work around my self-limiting beliefs and not thinking that it was impossible. Okay. So a question I have for you, great journaling question, is what limiting beliefs have triggered you to quit pursuing your goals? There's some in there. If you've quit pursuing a goal, there's definitely a belief system within you. And maybe it was time to quit the goal, right? We talked about that. We'll talk about quitting. We'll talk about reasons for folding and quitting. But how can you challenge these beliefs? And how can you look at them and think, okay, well, I need to shine a light on this because it's clearly preventing me from living a life that I could benefit from, and do the work there. So when we talked about earlier, the awareness is recognize when they arise. And the biggest piece of this, my friends, is acknowledge their influence on your decisions. Acknowledge the influence these self-limiting beliefs have on your influence on your decisions. What decisions are you making based off of these negative self-beliefs? I'm on the YouTubes as well. So if you're listening to this on, in your listening ears and not on video, I'm going to share with you a couple photos because I feel that it's important to always keep mind of where you were and always where you want to be, right? And I think there's many different ways to do this. I like to do this by way of journaling very often, and I will sometimes if I go into a prep for a show or I launch this podcast, or I tend to do this around the end of the year when everybody's making their New Year's resolutions and things like that. Mine are less based around health and fitness anymore because it's just part of my lifestyle and I'm not competing. But when I was competing, a lot of the times I would sit and journal, and I want to find all my journals and like rip all of these pages out so I could share them with you guys and the dates on them. And I would act as if the thing that I wanted already happened. And I was experiencing it, I was feeling it. And down to it is this day, I've accomplished top 5 in my first Figure Pro debut. And I literally mapped that shit out. And I got top 5 in my Figure Pro debut. I had no idea how it was going to happen, what was going to happen. I just acted as if, and I acted accordingly. And I had the belief system that I could do that. And I did. It was great. So I have pictures on my desk is laden with trinkets and love notes. That's my love language, and things to remind me of who I am and why I do what I do, because there are days for me, just like anyone else, where I wake up and I don't want to do the shit, right? I'm like, fuck, I need somebody to motivate me, right? Positive Pollyanna usually comes in clutch, by the way, which is Amanda Glitters. But I also have pictures of the woman I once was. There are several of my least favorite photos that I was mortified of seeing back then, but I'm so glad that I have them now, of who I was and who I'm not. I'm no longer this girl. But if I came from here and I am where I am now, like anything is possible. So if you're on YouTube's, this is a picture. There's a picture of me in a hospital bed. You'll see this oftentimes on my social media because I use it often. And this was, I was in the hospital. I was eating trash food at McDonald's every day, extra greasy through McDonald's drive-thru with a boyfriend at the time. Had my gallbladder taken out and was in the hospital for 7 days because it almost erupted and I could have died. So I was 200 pounds, miserable. You can see the color in my face. I mean, I look terrible here. I look probably 20 years older than I was there. I was 17. Okay. Then I also have a photo on my desk. So this reminds me of the health space that I do not want to be in ever again, right? This is a constant reminder. If I came from this and I became an IFBB pro, 16 times competed, always placed top 5, multiple firsts, seconds, and thirds, not bragging, but yes, these are things to consider as we move forward and celebrate. If I can do that from this woman here, okay, anything's possible. Then I also have a photo of myself in my mom jeans, which are popular now, by the way, with Ish the Beast and my son, Steven, who thick as the goal is his Instagram handle, but single mom, 2 kids, daddy gone, doing all the things, working 2 jobs and taking my kids to Boomers. That's where we were. If you're from Modesto, Boomers parking lot. And I have this here to remind me that if this girl who has no college degree, who went to the school of hard knocks, who got pregnant at 16 and conquered running a multiple 6-figure business, has employees, has a podcast, has competed 16 times, has done all these things that were unimaginable and unthinkable to me at that time, anything is fucking possible. So I encourage you to create your own version of that, whatever that looks like. My daughter loves to do vision boards, and I think those are amazing as well in setting up what you want your life to look like, what you want to achieve. And then you need to think the thoughts that the people that have those things think in order to achieve them. And then you just put one foot in front of the other and you start doing that shit. Okay. So positive affirmations, challenge your old beliefs. Are they based on facts, assumptions, feelings? Get deep with yourself. You have to, in order to understand how your brain is working, right? And why you do the things that you do and quit when you quit and all the things. Positive affirmations. Remember, I am the prize. Write that shit down. Write it down. Put it somewhere where you're going to see it every day. Put it on your screensaver in your phone, wherever. Journal about it. Girls, guys, people, everyone, circles, squares, all of you. Journal. Okay. Seek support. Super important. It's great to have accountability with these things too. You know, share your goals with other people. You know, maybe you get into a therapeutic space where you're working with somebody in therapy and you're like, look, I know that a lot of the things that hold me back are due to my self-limiting beliefs. Can we please work on my self-limiting beliefs? I need help working through that, and work with somebody. There's no shame in your therapy game, people. Okay. It's there for a reason. Utilize it. Successful people utilize it. It is a helpful tool. So that today, my friends, is a deep dive into self-limiting beliefs. I know you can do it. Really, this podcast, I wanted to call it Just Quit Fucking Quitting. Okay. Quit quitting. Think about why it is that you do the things that you do, but you really have to be committed to the process, because this is not something, again, that generally is a light switch for people. If you can acknowledge it, you can confront it, then you can start dealing with it and changing your thought patterns. So I want you to understand that these beliefs are not permanent truths. They're just mental constructs that empower individuals to reframe their self-perceptions And this will help you continue your journey towards success when you can turn them into positive self-beliefs instead of self-limiting beliefs. So hopefully you guys liked this episode. I love these mindset episodes because they also fire me up and remind me about things that I forget over times and stories and kind of motivate me to keep motivating y'all. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode and listen to the next one because it's going to be juicy. We're going to talk about the power of a growth mindset versus the fear of failure. We're going to dive deep into that one. So talk to you soon. Boss bitch. Wait. Before you go, boss bitches, real quick. I know we've just reached the end of another awesome episode of Boss Bitch Radio, and I'm hoping that you're having a blast listening to us and learning with us. But guess what? The fun does not have to stop there. If you are hungry for more things boss bitchery, fitness goodness, all the mindset stuff, all of the things that keep you motivated, you need to sign up for my newsletter. I know, I can't believe we've gone over 150 episodes and I have not mentioned once for y'all to be signing up for my newsletter because I've had a newsletter for 16 years. Every week I send out some content. Usually it's a wrap up of some of the podcast episodes with some snippets in there that's bite-sized that you can carry with you in your little pocket. But you wouldn't know unless you joined. All the cool bitches be on my newsletter list, and then you can just reply and we can chat. Those all go back to me, like it is me. I do write the things. So I would love to continue to motivate you outside of this podcast. I would love to pop into your inbox occasionally. No worries. I'm not going to spam you. I don't eat spam. I'm not going to send spam. But there will be some LOLs and some content that you won't want to miss. So join our Boss Bitch tribe. I'm going to link up the newsletter list sign up form in the show notes, which if you haven't taken a peek at the show notes, you should probably do that. There's some good ass links in there. There's some discounts, fun shit. Go find the email newsletter link, put your name on there, and every week I'll be whispering sweet nothings to you in your inbox. And it's a great way for us to stay connected outside of the podcast. All right, I'll see you in your inbox soon.